Okay, so we are back to some examples here. This is actually number 1 on your worksheet. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is write your name. Okay, so write your name up here. That way I know whose paper I'm grading. Okay. Now we're going to follow those steps. So if you read number 1, it says formulate 500 pounds of a 21% crude protein ration using soybean meal at 44% crude protein and corn at 9% crude protein. Okay, so if we follow our steps from before, we should write out our box. Okay, we are going to draw our arrows. I'm leaving a spot in the center for the next step. So we've done steps 1 and 2. We've drawn our arrows. Okay. Now we're going to write that crude protein percentage, in this case, as it tells us in the directions. We need an ending crude protein percentage here of 21%. So I'm going to write 21 in the center. Okay. I'm going to identify soybean meal as my number 2. Okay. And my corn is my number 1, just to keep some things straight here. So my number 1 is going to go up here in this corner. So for example, this is corn. So we're going to write corn at 9%. Okay. And in this bottom corner here, we're going to write this soybean meal percentage, which is 44. Okay, so I'm going to write soybean meal, or SM, 44%. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to follow my arrows across. I'm going to take 21 or take 44. In this case, you're always going to take the bigger number minus the smaller number. It does not always have to be this center box. So since 44 is the bigger number here, we're actually going to take 44 minus 21, which gives us 23. Okay? And we're going to take 21, the bigger number, minus 9 here, which will give us 12. Okay? So this actual number gives us parts. Okay? This gives us parts in terms of this is 23 parts of corn. Okay, and this would be 12 parts of soybean meal. Okay, so now what I want to do to make sure that I get this balanced correctly is I want to add these two numbers together. I want to get the total parts in this feed. So we're going to take 23 plus 12, okay, and that is going to give us 35 total parts. So all we did here was we added these two numbers together straight down, 23 plus 12, and that gave us a total final number of 35. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to now ask how many pounds of soybean meal will be used. Okay, so right now we know that we have 12 parts of soybean meal. Okay, so we need to change that into a percentage of total feed. So what percentage of the total feed is going to be soybean meal? So for this one, we're going to take this 12 parts. Okay, 12 parts. Soybean meal. Okay, and we're going to divide that division, okay, to get a percentage. To get the percentage of the total, obviously we're going to take this 35 and we're going to divide it by 35 total parts. Okay, and that should give us 0.34 parts. Okay, so we're almost halfway done here, trying to figure out what the soybean meal pounds is. Okay, now what we're going to do is, since we know our thing also told us that this is a 500-pound mix, okay, so to get the amount or the pounds of soybean meal that we need in this 500 pounds, we are actually going to take this, because this would actually be 34%, okay? And we would multiply it by this 500 to get the total poundage of soybean meal that we need, okay? So at this point over here, I'm going to draw a line, make sure we don't get anything confused. At this point over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 0.34, which is our soybean meal percentage, okay? And I'm going to multiply that by 500, and 500 is that total poundage that we needed, okay? If we do that correctly, we should get 170 pounds. Okay, all we did there was we took this 34 and we multiplied it by 500, and that gave us 170 pounds, okay, of soybean meal. Okay, so this is our final answer for how many pounds of soybean meal do we need in this ration. Okay, finally, we're going to do corn. So same process here. Go back up to our Pearson square and find out that we have 23 parts of corn here. So I'm going to write 23 parts corn. Okay, and just as we did for the soybean meal, we are going to divide that by the total parts here. So this would be 35. Again, 35 total. And if we do that math and take 23 divided by 35, that gives us 0.66 parts of corn. Okay, so 0.66 here. So 66% of this ration is going to be corn. Obviously a much larger number. So we're going to take, just as we did up here, because remember we're still trying to find the total pounds of corn. So we are going to take this 0.66 of corn, and we're going to multiply it by 500, which is going to equal 330 pounds of corn. Okay, so this again is our answer for this. So how many pounds of corn can be used, or will be used, excuse me, is 330. Now notice it also says double check your answer. And the reason that this is here is because, quite simply, if you take these two numbers here and you add them together, you should get back to this 500. Okay, so to double check your answer at the end and make sure that you did this right, take your two numbers that you got from finding how many of each you're going to use and add them together. So in this case, I'm going to take 170 and I'm going to add 330 to it. Okay, so 170 plus 330 equals 500. So 500 is what they asked me to formulate here. And now we know that if we would like a 21% crude protein in this 500-pound mix, we would need 330 pounds of corn and 170 pounds of soybean meal. So this is our Pearson square method. If you have any questions, please refer back to the video and following those steps and the steps that we went through here, step by step. Make sure that you keep in mind, take it slow. You don't have to be a professional at it right away. It could take some time. There's 9 practice problems here that we will go over in the next class. So Go ahead and work on number 2 and keep going. Hopefully you kind of get the hang of it. Like I said, if you have any questions, please refer back to the video as either we walk through this or as we walk through the steps, just the general steps that we took at the beginning. So enjoy.